Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Shay and you're listening to the Anatomy of a Trend podcast for fashion entrepreneurs in the making. I studied fashion design in London and continue to work in production, sales and marketing. I use my technical skills to help clients bring their fashion collections to life who are new to the fashion industry. So in this podcast, you'll get a mix of technical guidance along with an insight into the industry as I talk about my own experiences and journey. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, subscribe to this podcast and stay tuned. I'm very excited to be recording my first episode on my podcast. I am very keen to share everything that I've learned, especially with the clients that I'm currently working with. I work as a freelancer for some brands, but also for individual clients who don't have any experience in the fashion industry. And I want to create this podcast to help provide information, reviews, and resources if you want to learn more about what it takes to create a fashion brand. I'm working on some projects of my own to expand my creative and business outlets. So I'm going to be sharing my progress with you as I develop my skills, launching my own business, and hopefully you guys can not only learn something from me, but hopefully you can teach me a thing or two. So if in any of these episodes you know something a little bit more than I do, or you specialize in this area, please feel free to contribute with some of the comments down below. So today I'm going to jump into exactly what it means to be a technical designer. As I mentioned, I studied fashion design in London and continue to work for some fashion designers, some of whom you may know, the likes of House of Holland, Roxanda, Marika Transu, and Asino. And in these brands, I usually worked in the technical phases of a collection, which is really bringing the collection to life or getting it in the process of being made. So my work experience really ranges from design to development, production, and even retail sales. And now I'm focusing on expanding my skills to digital marketing and business entrepreneurship. So if that is something that interests you, subscribe to the channel and we'll talk more about that in the future. So like everybody, during this pandemic, I have had a lot of free time and I decided to go back to my freelancing, which was pretty easy to do from home. And I started working again for independent clients. And these are clients who usually have no experience in the fashion industry. They want to create a brand, but they just need that technical help. And what I find is working with these clients is that I tend to be repeating the same information over and over again. And so this is going to be my way of giving them a little bit of a crash course, but also giving them some guides and information step by step. So another word for what I do is called garment technology, which is essentially just making sure that the garment that you want designed is made correctly and within your budget and within your specifications of your brand. So I will be asking a lot of questions about budget, the types of finishings that you may want, the types of trimmings that you may want, what kind of fabrics are you going to use. And with all this information, this technical information, I create something called a tech pack. So this technical work is usually in between the sketching phase and the manufacturing phase. And I essentially create a tech pack which communicates to the manufacturer what it is exactly you want to create. So if we were to put this in terms of a construction site, the designer creates a collection, an idealistic idea of what they want, and I am the architect who creates a blueprint for the engineer to actually physically make in a 3D version. So just to skip a few steps, let's say that you have all of your designs, you're happy with what you've got, now you have the final designs for your collection. You would then come to me as the technical designer and I would use Adobe Illustrator and maybe Photoshop, and I would start creating a technical drawing that illustrates exactly how your garment should be made. So this drawing is going to tell you where the stitching goes, where the buttons go, how many buttons are there. It's also going to include maybe some color renderings or some fabric renderings so that the manufacturer can see what colors go where print is meant to go, where the buttons are meant to go, or how long a dress needs to be. All this information is going to be included in the tech pack along with sewing instructions. So this essentially creates a roadmap for the manufacturer to know exactly how your garment is going to be made. In addition to the tech pack, you're going to have something called a BOM. BOM stands for Bill of Materials, which is really just a list of all the raw materials that your manufacturer is going to need to create your garment. And together, this document, it can be 5 pages long, it can be 20 pages long. However much detail you need to include is completely up to you, as long as it's clear and organized. A lot of people may think that creating a tech pack is not worth it, or they don't spend a lot of time on it. In my experience, it's very beneficial for one more factor, which is it becomes your insurance policy. Like everyone, manufacturers are humans. Just like me and just like you, they are going to make mistakes at some point or another. And this is very common, and it's something that you should anticipate and expect in the future. Now, if your tech pack did not specify a certain instruction or a certain element of the garment, you might need to have it remade. But then it becomes difficult to decide at whose expense. Is it going to be your expense because you didn't specify? Or will it be the manufacturer's expense because they didn't ask and clarify? If something is not specified, a manufacturer will usually do the cheapest and fastest option. If you're creating a collection that is not particularly high-end, this may not be a problem for you. But if you are creating a collection that is luxury and designer, this is definitely something that you need to specify in your collection. You need to be very, very detailed so that if a mistake is made, or I should say when a mistake is made, you are not going to be held liable. The manufacturer will have to redo it and it will be at his expense. You do have to accept to some degree that you will experience a loss anyway. The fabrics, the raw materials will be a slight loss, and also time. So make sure that you include a lot of time in your manufacturing process, but we'll talk a lot about that later in our next few episodes. So having everything written down is really important. You can include pictures, diagrams, whatever it is you need, and as a technical designer, I can create close-up images of certain finishings or photographs of how something needs to be done so that it's even more clear. Another reason that your tech pack is really important is because it provides a tracking for all the changes that you make in your designs. Once you've created the final drawings, the technical drawings of your garment, you can then give it to a pattern maker who will construct a toile. A toile is a dummy version of your garment made in cheap fabrics. This is just to map out the feel and the shape and the silhouette and to make sure that it really is what you're going for before you spend money on constructing your design in final fabrics, which may be very expensive. You as the designer might look at the toile and you might say this is not exactly the fit that I'm going for, or you might change some details, add some details, remove them. Whatever changes that you make in the toiling phase, you would then update these changes in your tech pack. Garments may not necessarily be complicated, but there is a lot of information that you have to keep track of. You don't want to rely on your memory or someone else's memory to keep track of that information. You want to make sure that you have everything written down, so that when you create your final tech pack for production, you have the right information in the right place. You would then go back into the toiling phase, create a new toile with the new specifications and changes. And if you're happy with that, you can then ask your manufacturer to start on a PP sample, which is your pre-production sample. So when you have your PP sample, it's usually made in your final fabrics, final trimmings, and it's done exactly the way that you would make it for the market when you're ready to sell to a buyer or when you're ready to sell online to your target customer. This is just a brief introduction into what technical design is all about, and for the next episode I will be discussing pattern makers, who are the engineers of your collection. I'm going to talk about what they do, how they do it, and where you can find them. So if that is something that you're interested in, then please like, subscribe, or comment down below if you have any suggestions or you'd like to contribute to this episode. I would love to know how you guys have been getting on with any technical design work, or if this is something you thought of doing but maybe weren't sure about. I want to know what you guys are interested in, so please feel free to leave any questions down below and I will try and answer them in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again. Thank you, and bye-bye.